This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. In his book, Seen with the Heart, Father Kevin O'Brien quotes from that classic child's novel, The Little Prince. And he mentions how that everything important is seen with the eyes of the heart. Everything essential is invisible to our regular eye. He goes on to illustrate how, and if you might remember the story, it's a beautiful story. It's probably worth rereading if you haven't read it in a long time. But he talks about how the fox and the prince the prince wants to become friends with the fox. And the fox says to him, yeah, but you need to tame me first. And he says, why do I need to tame you? Like, we want to be friends. Why can't we just be friends? He says, because you see, if you tame me, you're going to have to spend time with me, learning all my ways. And then you will become the most, out of all the thousands of boys in the world, you're going to be the most important boy. And of all the thousands of foxes there are out there, I'm going to become the most important fox. That we will know each other and come to be fond and love each other. That's why you need to tame me. And then he goes on to explain why that what we need is to believe first, to see. It's not seeing and then believing, it's believing then seeing. And that when we see, we have to see with eyes of faith. And then we have to see with loving eyes. You see, because when we spend the time, then we start to see sacredness. We start to see beauty. We start to see goodness. See, that's when we start to recognize the beauty of life, even as it is right now. He calls it seeing with sacred eyes, and then he calls it seeing with loving eyes. He quotes many different authors, but I think the one from Little Prince is one of the most beautiful. I mean, I know, like, I don't know for you who have dogs, like, I know it's not quite a fox, but dogs are good enough for me, right? That the time I spend training my dog is the bonding of it. And that dog will do everything for me, and I will do anything for that dog. That's the same for you and your children, is the time you spend loving them when they're growing up. The amount of energy and time you've poured into them, that you see them differently because of what you have already given them. And therefore, everything they do, in a sense, is sacred and beautiful, even though it's not always right. There's a certain beauty to that. See, it's seen with the eyes of the heart. I suppose you never see things the same when you see that way, when you see with believing and loving eyes. Because, like, for example, when you fall in love, and you've met your spouse for the first time, I mean, you never see them the same way ever again. I mean, it's just, life is very different after that. In fact, everything starts to look sunnier after that. Everything starts to look, I mean, I may only last a couple of months, maybe years. But it does last, right? But we do, and it happens in other ways. It's not just between two spouses. It's also when we see life and we see something, then all of a sudden everything seems to, well, be different. And when we see that way, then everything becomes through that new set of eyes. I mean, for example, how could you not look up at the hills today in that beautiful sunny day and not be mesmerized by how blessed we are today? And if we don't and have not seen that yet today, maybe we have rushed here too fast. We should pause and take a look at the beautiful sun and take a look at the beautiful sky and the flowers, or just a simple flower in a pavement, and just be amazed. You see, in today's reading, we hear from the Transfiguration, this famous and beautiful story. But I think what we underestimate is the power of their faith to already have gone up the mountain. See, they went up the mountain with Jesus because they already believed in Jesus. And then they saw. It's not the other way around. They didn't go up the mountain, saw, and believe. It was the other way around. They already believed. They went up the mountain believing in Jesus. And they saw and were confirmed in their faith. And that's our journey of Lent, if you would. Like you're not, all of us are not coming into Lent to believe, but to confirm what we already believe. And so we come in to believe, and then we see anew. And then are transformed by that. Or in today's words, transfigured by that. And then we see life differently in the most precious way. But it takes that extra effort. It takes that choosing to believe. It's not that we don't have doubt. It's choosing to believe, and then we begin to see. And hopefully when we come from these liturgies each week, we can come from here and start to see the love of our spouse in a new way. Not that they have done anything different. They haven't. But we see differently. Why? Because we've been renewed with eyes of faith and renewed with eyes of love. And because we then see differently, then we see in our spouse, in our children, maybe our even grandchildren, or the other way around. As children, we start to see in our parents someone who has always loved us, who we may not always understand, but is always there for us. And we start to see with the eyes of the heart. That's the renewal we are committed to for this Lenten journey. But it starts with believing. It starts there. And then we start to see. And we start to see with eyes of belief, then with eyes of love. And because of that, everything is transfigured. Everything. Every relationship, every rock, every flower, every sunshine, or even the rain and the pondering rain, we see differently because we've seen with the eyes of the heart.